Patricia Gibson.
Thank you, Mr Chair. And I want to begin, as others have, by thanking the honourable member for Rutherglen and Hamilton West for bringing this very important debate forward and for the work that he's done up to now on this issue. And I'm very pleased to participate in this debate on the important issue of our constituents' access to their own cash free of charge and ultimately the issue of social and financial inclusion. We've heard today that 2.2 million people across the United Kingdom are entirely reliant on cash as opposed to credit or debit cards, and it must be correct that we can all access our own cash without incurring any charges. The fact is that those who are reliant on cash transactions tend to be less well off and are the least able to pay any additional cost to access what little cash they have. As the honourable member for Rutherglen and Hamilton West pointed out, earlier this year, Link, the UK's largest cash machine network, announced that it would go ahead with plans to cut its interchange fee by 20% over the next 5 years. And as a result, we have seen hundreds of ATMs closing. As a result, with Scotland being hit hard, with 221 free cash machines being lost between January and July 2018, around one every single day. There are now fewer than 6,000 free cash machines left in Scotland, and this sits very uncomfortably alongside branch bank closures, as the honourable member for Strangford pointed out, with banks closing at the rate of 60 each month, and which has left significant towns, such as in my constituency, West Kilbride, Dalry, Beath, Stevenston, Ardrossan, Kilwinning, all with no bank at all, thanks to RBS closures. And for the communities affected will never forgive RBS for this abandonment and this betrayal, and never again, I believe, will RBS be trusted or its reputation repaired. And it's still disappointing that the UK government didn't intervene and use what influence it had in that matter. And we've also heard that with post office closures stretching back to 2007 and 2008, the issue has been compounded, and that was pointed out to us by the honourable member for Makerfield. And we've got the additional problem, as the honourable member for Strangford pointed out, of postmasters not being replaced. So the issue is snowballing. I just want to also point out, Mr Chair, that I fairly enjoyed the honourable member for Murray doing his impersonation of a trapeze artist, where he was trying to blame, if I heard him correctly, the shortage of ATMs and the impact on small businesses on the Scottish Government. Of course, the honourable member for Murray will be well aware, I am sure, that thousands of businesses in Scotland have benefited from the small business bonus, and I would argue, and I think anybody in this room would agree, looking at the evidence, that the major issue facing small businesses is the concern and uncertainty caused by Brexit. So we'll just leave that there. I will not give way. I will proceed. 2018 saw 670 local bank branches closing, following close on the heels of the 2017 closures, which saw 879 closures of banks across Scotland. Of course, the banks will no doubt tell us, in response to what they've heard today, that fewer and fewer of us use cash in our transactions. But the fact is that research shows that at least 3/4 of us use cash at least 2 or 3 times a week, and it's still the most popular method of payment. The Honourable Lady for Stoke-on-Trent North pointed out, and almost every contributor today pointed out, that those on lower incomes and older people are likely to be the hardest hit by any reductions in access to cash. And the less well off you are, the older you are, the more likely you are to rely on cash transactions, with just over 1/4 of people not using card payments at all. This perfect storm of a reduction in free ATMs and bank closures means that now there are real concerns that about the effect these closures will have on consumers and small businesses without adequate access to cash. And this financial and social exclusion is utterly unacceptable. What we see, Mr Chair, is that consumers are gradually being forced into online banking, and now it seems the evidence would suggest they are gradually being forced into cashless transactions. So much for consumer choice. And we've heard from the Honourable Member for Rutherglen and Hamilton West that in January 2018, Link announced a series of 4 reductions in the interchange fee, cutting the fee from around 25p per transaction to 20p. The amount paid every time a customer uses a free ATM, and which funds the entire free-to-use network. But concerns have been raised, and as we've heard from the Honourable Member for Rutherglen and Hamilton West, that these 3rd and 4th reductions have been cancelled and put on hold respectively. The idea of cutting the interchange fee was supposed to reduce machines in areas where there were considered to be too many, but maintain geographical coverages of ATMs across the UK. But Link commissioned a review to consider consumer requirements for cash machines over the next 5 to 15 years. And this review is cognisant of the fact that financial inclusion is and of course will remain extremely important for all consumers, and their needs and requirements must be met. Like everyone here today, I look forward to the findings of that review in March. But meanwhile, research carried out by Which is truly shocking. It shows that free-to-use ATMs are closing at the rate of £250 a month, £250 a month, while over 100 ATMs with so-called protected status have stopped transacting in the same period. And the member for Rutherglen and Hamilton West has set out the challenges associated with ATMs with this protected status. Analysis shows that from November 2017 to April 2018, following Link's announcement about cutting the fees paid for each ATM transaction, the rate of cash point closures increased from around £50 per month to 300 each month, and Link's own figures show that between January and June this year, 500 cash points closed each month. The implications of all this are extremely significant, with more machines being lost in rural communities, despite Link's pledge that changes would only target urban and not rural machines. But just under half of us use a cash point at least once a week, with 80% of us saying that access to free-to-use cash machines is important in our daily lives for paying for goods and services. Forcing people to pay to access their own cash would leave around 10% of us struggling and would constitute nothing less than financial exclusion, and would hit small and local businesses hard. And that was set out for us in some detail by the Honourable Member for Strangford. But as the Honourable Member for Rutherglen and Hamilton West indicated, it's already the case that many people struggle to access free cash points, with around 11% of us having to walk more than 30 minutes to access our nearest cash machine, with around 9% saying the nearest machine was simply too far away to reach on foot. And that, coupled with many who have no access to a car, makes life extremely difficult, as the Honourable Member for Caithness, Sutherland and Easter Ross reminded us. So that means that 1 in 5 of us don't currently have access to free-to-use cash at the moment, but it seems that this might in fact actually get worse. And that is why the calls from Which for the Payment Systems Regulator to bring more regulatory scrutiny and intervention to bear on this issue is so important. And I agree that it is time for the Financial Inclusion Programme to be amended to ensure that the entire ATM network is fit for purpose. While Link has tried to address concerns that all ATMs 1 kilometre or more from the next free ATM will be exempt from any reductions and cuts to fees for transactions made, and increasing the subsidy for these machines, there is some concern that these measures, although well-meaning, simply don't go far enough. Exempting individual cash points from cuts to fees might not be enough to save them. Cash point closures are not decided by Link. We know that recent closures and the inability of Link to quickly and effectively replace protected machines shows the shortcomings of the current approach. So we've heard from many members today that it really is time for the Payment Systems Regulators to show its teeth. It seems eminently sensible for the Payment Systems Regulator to conduct its own review of Link's financial inclusion programme, including the ATM replacement process, because this must be fit for purpose. The Government must also beef up the powers of the Payment Systems Regulator to allow it to protect cash and impose a duty of care on it to ensure the sustainability of the UK's cash infrastructure. Because I believe this would do much to protect consumers, the choices they want to make and their financial inclusion. The Payment Systems Regulator could, if it had the power from government, to introduce robust measures to ensure that all our communities have access to free and easy access to their own cash. So today I urge the Minister to set out how he can empower and what he is prepared to do to empower the Payment Systems Regulator to ensure there is a robust future for free-to-use cash machines, which the Payment Systems Regulator has admitted in correspondence with me on the 12th of September that it is, and I quote, concerned about these closures. So I'm hoping the Minister will heed the calls heard from all sides of the Chamber today to work across party lines to ensure a sustainable, inclusive approach on this issue that works for all consumers.